Welcome back to a little bit of cheese, your daily bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas, and we'd like to welcome you to another edition of NFL Reaction Monday. It is October 14th, recording this just before noon o'clock. An exciting weekend overall. At the top here, we got Wisconsin Badgers, a surprisingly blowout victory over Rutgers at Rutgers. 42-7, the final score there. Tawee Walker had 24 carries, 198 yards, 3 tutties. Braden Locke, 20 for 28, 240, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The defense not giving up a touchdown until the fourth quarter. I said they were going to have to exceed my expectations for me to pay attention. I think we got to start paying attention to this Badger team a little bit.
Not a bad Rutgers team either. You look at a dominant win over these Rutgers and you're like, oh, we see that kind of every year. They were 4-1 coming into the game. That's not a bad win at all. And it was, like you said, dominant through the whole game. Did it on the ground, did a little bit through the air. 20 for 28. That's better than what I expected coming out of Locke. So love to see it. Big win for the Badgers.
Yeah, you get back-to-back weeks where Braden Locke looks like he can actually fit into this system. And I said it like the first 2 weeks that he had to play, of course, that game against Alabama, and then the week after that against USC, where I said he didn't even look like a Division I quarterback. Now he kind of does. And I think they can win a couple of games because of Braden Locke, possibly. But the big story here, Tawee Walker, his breakout game for Wisconsin, pretty much 200 yards, 3 touchdowns on 24 carries. The dude balled out, and that is more to the identity of the Wisconsin Badgers, of course. They ran the ball. Rutgers knew it was coming. 24 carries, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then really good defense on the back end. So what are your expectations moving forward for this Badger team? I know the schedule's pretty tough, but I think you got to take a little bit with this win here. Like you said, a really good team in Rutgers, and it was at Rutgers. And, of course, this is probably the biggest Rutgers game that they've had in a long time for a good team.
Absolutely. The Rutgers were coming out trying to fire. I think, I really hope that this team made some significant changes in the locker room, coaching staff and the scheme in general. When Locke came in, they got back to a little bit more of a simple football, and that's what the Badgers are founded upon. This offensive line is running hard. It's getting 200 plus on the ground. It's having, quality quarterback play with a good defense. Schedule gets tough. We should be able to take out Northwestern next week.
That one always feels weird every single year. That's just that one weird game against Northwestern. I don't know, but yes, you are correct. They should
be able to get through. If we could take care of Rutgers 42-7, then we should be able to get to. But goofy things happen. We go to Penn State then. I don't know if we're going to Penn State or if they're coming to us. That's at Camp Randall, so that'll be a fun game. If we get that Penn State as we're playing hot. That could be awesome for this team. We got an Oregon game coming up this year, so I still don't want to put too much expectations on this Badgers. I don't think we're a playoff team, but as long as we can stand still be a strong Big Ten team. Big Ten is really, really good. Oregon and Ohio State played one hell of a game. That was awesome. So as long as we're standing strong with this Big Ten, we can go into next year with a little bit of something to get excited about.
Absolutely. I think you take this as kind of a stepping stone, and you got your first big step, I think, for the year is this win over Rutgers, where you can actually it's been a long time, it feels like, where you've had like a blowout win from start to finish against an actual team, like not a cupcake team that they play in the first couple of weeks. Like I remember those Melvin Gordon days when they'd go in and they'd just kick the crap out of Nebraska. Like just those big games where you have a big game from a running back and it's against a team where going in, you don't have everybody picking Wisconsin. And this is a game where the line was pretty much even. I think, Rutgers is actually favored going into this game, and a blowout stomping victory like this, it just feels a little bit more like a Badger victory of old, where it should be like in the last 10 to 15 years for Wisconsin. But a really good victory there and a really good college football Saturday. Just wanted to mention that, like the games from top to bottom, like that ended with Colorado and Kansas State. That was one heck of a game. Ohio State, Oregon, like you mentioned. We were really, really blessed with some good football last Saturday. But that didn't stop, because then on Sunday, Green Bay playing at home in a rainy game, able to get another really nice victory, 34-13 to win over the Arizona Cardinals. Jordan Love, probably his best game of the season, and looked very similar to what he looked like at the end of last year. 22 for 32, 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, the 1 interception on the line. You're not going to put that against him, but a near perfect day for Jordan Love. Romeo Doubs had 2 touchdowns in his comeback appearance. Christian Watson, 3 receptions, 68 yards, a touchdown. Jaden Reed getting on the board again with another touchdown. Josh Jacobs, he had 18 carries for 62 yards, 3.4 yards a carry. Not the greatest line for Jacobs, but you got to look at what both sides of the ball did here for Green Bay. A really solid victory over Arizona.
Dominant. Love to see it. Everything on this team was firing away. Love to see it. Linebackers were looking fast. Love looked like he was back. Nothing going on with the knee. I didn't notice any hobbles, any shakiness with the knee. So that was really fantastic to see. Reed stays on the board. Hey, in a rainy day, you didn't think it was going to be a 4-touchdown day from Love, but the guy put it together. Big takeaway. This Packers look great. Excited about them. These Cardinals might be a little bit fraudulent. They got a nice win over San Francisco last week. I think they were riding a little bit of a high. Makes me wonder how big of an issue is going on in San Francisco right now, because these Cardinals, they did not look intimidating. They got nothing going. McBride is a beast. But, back to the Packers. We know Kyler can run. Our linebackers look fast. We were stopping him. He tried to get outside a couple times. He had 7 carries on the day, only 14 yards. It was not for a lack of effort. These Packers were swallowing it up. We had the 5 yards in, linebackers, everything stayed in front of them. That was very exciting to see. Would have loved to see a McKinney pick, but we'll take Kyler running for 2 yards a carry instead. That's all right with me.
Yeah. The streak ends, but I think as good of a victory as it was, I think you can feel okay with the McKinney interception streak ending, which dating back to last year was at 6 games where he had 7 interceptions in those 6 games. And it ends there in his first 5 games as Packer comes away with a pick. Can't get it done in game number 6. Gosh darn it, that just stinks. But I like you're mentioning there the linebackers. Quay Walker had his best game of the season. Absolutely. You saw Edgerrin Cooper get put in that rotation. He should be playing darn near every single snap as the middle linebacker there for Green Bay. Evan Williams, you saw the Peanut Tillman punch out fumble. Oh, that was a thing of beauty. Just a great play in football. And you haven't had a lot of Green Bay defensive backs do that recently. I think the last that I can remember that did it on somewhat of a consistent basis was Charles Woodson. And now Evan Williams, who right now I think he's playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level. Like, there is absolutely no reason that Evan Williams should not be on the field. You have your 2 starting safeties. It is Williams, it is McKinney, and then you move Bullard down in the slot. I talked about it last Friday for the keys to the game, optimizing your defensive rotation. That is what Hafley did on Sunday, and it was a thing of beauty. You actually saw Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary get in the backfield a couple of plays too there. I think all 3 levels there just optimized, and they're still waiting for Devontae Wyatt to come back, which I think it'll be a couple weeks yet. But this defense is kind of running on all cylinders, and I was a little bit concerned with Murray coming in. You saw there were a couple plays where Murray almost got outside and they let him get out there. And you kind of see the speed that he has and why we were talking about why he's such a dangerous mobile quarterback. But I think they did a really good job, as you said, 2 yards per carry there for Kyler Murray. Like they bottled him up well, and Arizona could not do much.
Not just the Evan Williams punch out. We had 3 punch outs on the day. That was beautiful football. The punch outs were going crazy. And then we were swallowing the ball. They had 3 fumbles, and we recovered all 3 fumbles. So you love to see that action on the ball, following up with the plays, getting the ball out. And hey, that's a difference maker. If your team can put up 30+ points and your defense can force, more than 2 turnovers a game, that's just beautiful football. And this team is young. You're talking about Bullard, talking about Williams. These are rookies. Like, we played well last year. We were still the youngest playoff team, and who knows how long. That was awesome stuff. It's going to take a couple weeks for these guys to get in the flow of things, and I think we're watching it before our eyes. It's awesome stuff to see.
Yeah, it is, and you see the differences in what Hafley's doing. The scheme is just it's working. He knows when to blitz, and the guys are getting there. Quay Walker, I talked a lot of bad things about him over the first part of the season, but you send him on a blitz, he is screaming off of that blitz. He is so quick when it gets to the quarterback. I think he would almost fit as like an outside linebacker type in a 3-4 is kind of what his profile looks like he would be now. But In a 4-3, it doesn't really work like that. But you have the opportunity to blitz a guy like that, and it works. And like I said, and you as well, those rookies, you got your Cooper, your Bullard, your Williams, they're stepping up, they're making plays. And Jaire being back helps a big deal as well. He's the mainstay for that defense, and just a lot of really good stuff. He has to be happy about it. I want to move back to the offensive side of the ball, where Love, we talked about a near perfect day, the 4 touchdowns. He's actually the first Packer in 29 years to have 4 touchdowns in back-to-back home games. Rodgers never did it, but Brett Favre did 29 years ago. So just an interesting stat there on that point. We talk about the 1 interception, not his fault. Bo Melton slipped where Melton would have been wide open had he not slipped. That's not on Jordan Love. So you can look at that and say, oh, he threw another interception today. Why do we keep doing that? This one's not on him. Don't need to be frustrated over that at all. But my favorite touchdown of the day, I think, for Jordan Love was that last one where Arizona blitzed 8, I believe. I counted after. They blitzed 8. They sent the kitchen and the sink and the fridge and everything at him. And Love just took 2 steps back, just flung up a prayer, and the prayer was right on line for Romeo Doubs, where the cornerback overran him, and Doubs is there to catch it and just walk into the end zone. People are arguing about it on Twitter. Once again, if it's an actual good throw or not, I think that was an awesome throw because, I mean, what else are you going to do on that play? I'm sure Aaron Rodgers would have taken a sack if he was in the exact same situation, but Love threw it up in one-on-one coverage and gave his guy a chance. That's my take. I want to hear yours as well. And the overall day here for Jordan Love.
You know, there's a time and place to make those throws, and when you're getting house sent at you, that's the time to make that throw. We saw last week he made another little chuck up deep ball into the end zone, but that was into double coverage on an option route. That's not in, he wasn't under all that much pressure. Probably could have gone around, had a check down. But on that hot route, when you know you have single coverage and Doubs has fantastic hands and that's your jump ball guy, that's exactly when you make that play. He was asked in the locker room last week if he's still making that Jayden Reed throw into triple coverage. I love that he said no. But he pulled it off last week. And this week, it's not the same throw at all. You're getting house coming at you. You got your best one-on-one receiver for a jump ball. That's exactly when you make that throw. I love to see it. Wasn't expecting a 4-touchdown game from Love. Also fantastic. He played great. There was a 3rd down dot to Christian Watson.
Oh, yes. It went right over 2 linebackers who had to get their full vertical leap to just get close to the ball, but they were real close to it. But that ball couldn't have been thrown anywhere else, or it would have been a danger zone there. Perfect throw.
I had goosebumps watching that because I didn't see anything going on. Really wanted the 3rd down, and then you see it go right over 3 different Cardinals in a tight window. Watson gets up on both legs as a healthy man afterwards. I love to see it. Josh Jacobs didn't really get going on the ground. He had 18 carries, only had 62 yards. That didn't stop this Packers offense from still running it. We finished with 179 on the ground on the whole day. Emmanuel Wilson looked really efficient. He looks fast. I love that he's going to be a nice dual threat back. I think we're used to having a fast back and a power back with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones over the years. So having a receiving back as the dual threat back, I think is really exciting for this offense as well. Love to see Tucker Kraft staying involved with a little sneak in there. I think more Tucker Kraft is good for everybody in Wisconsin. And tough game against Houston next week. So the boys are looking hot, but we'll see what we got next week. Houston's coming into Lambeau.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game. And just a little bit of foreshadowing here. Sam came up with this good idea where at the end of every Monday NFL reaction episode, we're going to come up with the headline for next week's episode. So we're going to try to predict what happens. I kind of like that. So kudos to Sam there on that. That'll be coming up in just a bit. But I did want to touch on this a little bit. The Romeo Doubs first touchdown that he had back, I love what they had for a celebration there, where Romeo just went up and gave Watson a hug, and then the whole offense just went up and they all just gave Romeo a hug and patted him up on the helmet. I thought that was awesome. I think it kind of goes to show like that they're able to kind of move past this. It's a very tight-knit group. There was turmoil, of course, but I think, and I predicted this, where it's not going to be a problem. I think this might even be something that kind of brings this wide receiver room a little bit closer, is kind of what it looked like. And and Dobbs getting on the board for 2 touchdowns. Then he was walking off the field just showing the heart to the fans. Like I thought that was just really awesome stuff. I love to see it for Romeo. And I also wanted to talk what is going to happen here at kicker. Another missed field goal for Braden Narveson. It is at the point where you can't, like, he's leading the NFL in missed kicks, I think by it's at least 2 now. It's a bad number. And this team is so good. You're seeing what Green Bay is capable of. You can't go into the playoffs with a kicker that cannot make it from 40 yards consistently.
What can you do? I mean, Greg Joseph had a couple tough misses last night as well. I mean, is the kicker market that troubling right now? We saw Brandon Aubrey for the Cowboys come in as the soccer player style and just crush right away. At some point, you got to just believe in a kid and let him figure it out. And I think that's what we're gonna do with Narveson. I think that's what we did with Carlson last year. But
how did that work?
Yeah, it didn't work out. Like, what can you do?
Gotta make a kick.
Market right. There's got to be somebody out there. Are we bringing in Crosby to knock through extra points? Like,
no. I think you're at a point where you look at someone who you feel comfortable with, and you trade a 4th-round pick.
Sure.
Like that's right. I think you shop around. Sure. And the one that was brought up on Twitter, you look at Tennessee with Nick Folk, led the league in field goal percentage last year. Tennessee's not going to do anything. They don't need a kicker right now. Give them a 4th-round pick. And you know what? You can give them Narveson right back. Here you go, guys. Here's a draft pick. Here's your old kicker, rookie kicker, and we're going to take your kicker. I think that's kind of the next step forward. How much of a possibility do you think that is?
I really like that idea. I really do. It doesn't seem like a Packer move to give up draft capital for a older kicker, but we're at a point right now where we're seeing it be a weekly issue and kind of ended our season last year. So if you got buy-in from 52 out of the 53 guys, at some point you got to show support to them and get somebody in the building. So if that's making a trade, it might only be a 5th or 6th rounder. Draft capital is kind of goofy like that, but I'm all in favor of going and getting someone in the building.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next step. I think that's why they haven't gone and released Narveson, because I bet they're shopping around. I guarantee that there's conversations happening, because like you said, the market right now, you got a couple teams with some really bad kickers that you can't trust, where Joseph is one of them in New York. And I think to go and get someone who is reliable, you're going to have to go off the market. You're going to have to look at guys who are actually on rosters right now and making kicks consistently. And I think it would have to be via trade. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. The NFC North is turning into a gauntlet. Green Bay is 4-2. And right now they are listed at the bottom of the division after big wins, a blowout win from Detroit. That was a very interesting game. And then Chicago winning in London against Jacksonville. I know I can already kind of tell where your mind's at with that Chicago game, but I do want to hear your thoughts on both these teams and kind of how you see this NFC North thing as we move forward here with the worst team in the NFC North at 4-2 currently.
So NFC North is as dominant as it had been cracked up to be. I love to see it. Hey, Jacksonville might just be really bad. That's my take on London. I'm still holding reservations with Minnesota and Chicago with how actually legitimate they are. Caleb is still growing week by week. He's that young player we talked about at the first podcast we did. These young quarterbacks are taking a little bit to get their footing down. It took CJ Stroud a couple weeks. He got going pretty fast, but it took him 3 weeks last year. Vikings still they had a bye week, so it's probably the best thing to happen to them this week. They'll run into the Lions and get absolutely smushed next week. I watched most of that Lions game and I loved it. They were trying to get the linemen the ball so often. They had a hook and ladder to Penei Sewell, which was awesome, and it got called back for a holding or something silly like that. And that's what messed them up in the season last year against the Cowboys, is they couldn't get the the lineman call. So they tried to sent him out as a wide receiver a couple times. They
They
tried
started and ended the game with that, like just as a petty.
27-9, just a beat down to the Cowboys. These Lions are absolutely legit. Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are in their bag. This Lions team is a buzzsaw, and I don't want to play him as a Packer fan anytime soon.
I will bring up probably the biggest factor from this game. Aiden Hutchinson snapped his leg in half. That was scary. And Hutchinson actually, on the play that it happened, I was bartending at this point, watching the game with a couple other people. And right when he made that sack, I said, Aiden Hutchinson, defensive player of the year. And then you see him go down and say, my leg's broken. And then so all that's washed away. But he was probably one of, if not the best defensive players and best X factors on a defensive side for the entire NFL. And now he's out. But you did talk about the domination from top to bottom there. Detroit is just a much better team than Dallas. I think Dallas is actually terrible. I will say that with full confidence. Like anytime that I have picked and we've had Dallas on for like a good game for our ESPN lacrosse picks, I have always picked against Dallas, and I am at 100% rate for picking against Dallas right now. And I am going to continue to stick with that because I think that team is just bad. But yes, Detroit, very good. I think even without Aiden Hutchinson, they're going to be a force. I am concerned about that. I will say where it comes to Chicago, their 4 wins, every single one of them is against a team who at this point in the season only has 1 win. So it's all of their wins are against bad teams, which Green Bay, you can say, oh, you had Indianapolis, you had Tennessee in there too. And I was like, yeah, but we had a backup quarterback going as well. And you were right on the ropes with Minnesota about to beat them as well as Philadelphia. I think there are 2 stark differences in how these 2 seasons are going. But when it comes to Chicago, I know you said you're kind of on the fence here. Is there a little bit of a concern level on the rise here?
Seeing Caleb Williams get better every single week. When we talk about Caleb Williams, the whole thing is there's no ceiling for him. He is this Mahomes archetype. So if he keeps getting better and better, improving this offense, and the defense has been proven to legit. It's kind of like a Baltimore situation going on over there. Like the defense is going to be fine no matter what. Chicago is made on toughness. Their defense is going to be something to deal with. So if Caleb Williams can really be like that, if he can put it together and start feeling comfortable, he didn't do a whole lot of run. Yeah, he did 50 yards on the ground, only 4 runs. So I think a little bit more of that's going to be really important for him to really elevate his game. And that shows a lot of comfort in the pocket as well when you can break it and actually go make plays rather than just scrambling for scrambling's sake, which I think we kind of saw Kyler running for his life a little bit. Where if you can have these controlled runs, these Mahomes, these Jordan Love style runs where it's functionable. So you're only running, a good 6, 7 times a game, but it's for that 15-yard touchdown. It's because you had the whole right side of the field cleared out and you got a 20-yard, gap in front of you. I think that's going to be really important for him. Hey, the Bears have talent. We know they do. Between them and the Vikings, I've yet to see it in my lifetime. So they got to show
Right.
it to me. The only thing that carried the Bears anywhere in my lifetime has been Devin Hester, a kick returner, one of the most electric players I've had the pleasure of seeing. So I am rooting for the kid. I want to see Caleb Williams play well. I want to see the Bears lose a lot of games. I don't think they're going to be a sub 500 team very long, but I do think they're still a little bit removed from being a 12-13 win team.
Oh, I think so as well. And they're not going to really play the NFC North until I think week 8 is their first game against the North.
Sure.
So they and we talked about how good the North is. They're going to have a gauntlet coming up when it gets to that. And we'll see how things shake up. But I think from top to bottom, best division in football, and that has been proven week after week after week, and being even more solidified this past week. I'll kind of open up the floor here a little bit before we get to our prediction of the headline. Do you have any other mentions of NFL games and sightseeing that you had over the weekend?
Bengals are back. Bengals are back. I'm all in on the Bengals. The offense was cooking a little bit. Now they played a Giants team, and then there's definitely some struggles. They were a little bit slouchy in the first half. I'm all in. I think they know they got to get Jamar the ball. I think T. Higgins looked fantastic last night. I'm not sleeping on this Bengals team at all. AFC's looking really good. Baltimore's also
Sleeping a little bit on the Bengals team.
you're sleeping a little bit on this
This is
Bengals team.
against the Giants. I don't care. Talking about that NFC North is just in shambles. I mean, Washington, they played a really solid game against Baltimore. And I think Philly's going to be fine too. But Dallas and New York, I don't think they have it. So I'm not sold on Cincinnati. I am a proud Joe Burrow fantasy owner in 2 different leagues, but Cincinnati as a whole, I mean, you're still at 2-4, and you got a really tough AFC you're going through yet here. I don't know about the playoffs, but it was a good win for them, absolutely, to start to get back on track.
They needed it, and that's all that they needed to do. They needed to get back on track, and it looked like, you watched, they had some flow, they had a little bit of rhythm. They couldn't get it all going. I think Burrow's looking a little bit more healthy. Of course, the one week I finally benched Mark Andrews in my fantasy league. He put something together. But the Ravens are looking just as dominant against a really good Commanders team. And Bo Nix. I had a little note about Bo Nix. Dude, he's not looking bad. He might actually be a quality quarterback in this league. So he's definitely one of the rookies that I'm keeping a strong eye on. And I don't think this Broncos team is very good, which kind of makes the Bo Nix situation a little bit more interesting for me. But he had some dots throughout the game. He had an awesome touchdown pass and catch by Courtland Sutton in the back of the end zone there, which I thought should have been overturned, but they kept it.
Yeah. No, he plays gritty too. Like even if you get him like outside the pocket and he's got to take off, like he'll take off and he'll go and he's going to be effective in that part of the game too. And I think I'm a fan of his mentality he has as a quarterback, and I think a lot of that has been instilled from Sean Payton. Like I think you're gonna see it's gonna be similar to a Drew Brees play style. Like peak Drew Brees, I think, is like the absolute ceiling here for next. I'm not gonna say that's where it is, but that's what he's going to be coached up to be with Payton. And I think it's definitely possible. He's got the tools. Yes, he's an old rookie quarterback, but you see the skill set is there. And I think he's a leader. I think he is going to be a solid quarterback moving forward. I think he's really shown that.
Absolutely. Those Broncos can add a lot of depth to the AFC. Yeah. Same with the Chargers. I think those are 2 teams that I'm going to keep an eye on. And, they might be a team that somebody doesn't want to play in the first round of the playoffs. Doesn't matter how hot you are. Obviously, I think, at the top of the AFC, Kansas City, Baltimore, and are sitting pretty fine with whoever they play in the first round.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, well, move on to the final part here. It'll be everyone's favorite section of the show when we get to it and get on a roll here. But Sam, we're going to start with you. What is your prediction for next week's headline for NFL Reaction Monday?
I didn't want to give it away earlier. You touched on it. Houston, we have a kicking problem. Narveson misses the game winner and Packers fall to 27-28.
I hope that there's a change made until then, or maybe they don't make a change and maybe that doesn't happen. But right now it looks like a problem. It's a bold prediction. I have Stroud stifles the pack using my alliteration in that sense. I don't know. It feels like things were too good for 1 week. You can't stay too good for too long here in Green Bay. And I think Houston, they're going to get on a roll at some point. I think that team is too talented, and I think this is going to be the toughest task for Hafley and that defense, because now with Joe Mixon back, Houston, they're going to be tough, and I think Stroud is going to be due for a good game.
The Houston team's really good all around. A lot of talent there. No Nico Collins is really no problem. They got weapons galore. Dalton Schultz really hasn't even gotten going this year either. Right. Mixon's really good. Stroud is the man. Danielle Hunter on their line is a big upgrade. I saw that happen over the summer, and I was like, who's letting them get all these guys? So
yeah, it's not allowed. All right, I will just get into the end here. So Sam, I'll leave it with your final thoughts. You got any words for the people here on NFL Reaction Monday?
Buck season's coming up, baby. Here we go. So we're starting next week.
Really that excited. It is. That's right. We'll be all ready for that, and we'll pick Sam's brain when we get to Bucks season as well. And from me, this is probably one of the first times in my life I'm going to say it, but go Dodgers. I big win yesterday against the Mets. Going to try to break that curse as we move on As I want to thank you guys all for listening here on NFL Reaction Monday. I'm Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. I will see you once again tomorrow for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your daily bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.